We are live. Hello, Donna,
Hello to
Michael.
you.
Hi.
Boy, it's been a
It's
long
been a
time.
while. It's been a while.
It has
Yeah,
indeed. You're
I
looking
would love
well.
to be having this conversation in person over a cup of tea at your beautiful home, but we found ourselves with a little time to discuss this topic, just given the what's happened on Monday, which wasn't the reason for me
Tuesday.
reaching out. It wasn't gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't right. Tuesday, this wasn't gonna be a discussion about the primary, which embarrassingly I've put my head in the sand. Even down here, I'm in Phoenix. But yeah, I reached out because, well, let me first. I want to remind people how we're connected.
Yeah, sure.
I helped start your campaign. We met during the El Rojo days and
Yes.
connected, and you asked me to help you with your campaign. So we began your campaign. Thankfully, you had a wonderful person jump in and take the anchor from me and do that campaign for you. So we've been really connected on everything. So I know you as a politician. I know you as an amazing woman, partner, business person, and so I'm not having this conversation with you to support you as a candidate, but I am now that that's where we've dovetailed why I originally reached out. So let's start with why I reached out, and that is this renewed call to check to kind of look into some alternative connector roads, bridges in and out of the city limits of Sedona. My dear friend Casey lives at that last house there
Yeah.
in Sedona on the edge of the creek, one of the most iconic parts of the country, one of the most photographed, and one of the
Yes.
most sacred, right? It's on very precious riparian land. So it's got a lot of the same characteristics of other areas we've worked really hard to protect. Which
Yes.
it's not the only idea, but I'm going to let you take over and kind of start with maybe the city council meeting in which these ideas were once again put into the ethers for people to look at.
Hava, firstly, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity, and it's lovely to see you again. What I love about our Connect is that it's based on values. When we first met, and they don't change, it doesn't matter whether it's 4 years or a lifetime.
Yeah.
Uh, those values that are driven from our principles are our foundation of who we are as individuals and as a community. And as you know, that's my life work and my
Yep.
passion. And so we met, uh, 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 thank goodness, about El Rojo Grande, but same sort of scenario. How do we protect these iconic sacred places that really, because we're blessed with being near them, you in Phoenix, though we all wish you were here all the time, but we're glad you're at least this close. Recognizing that it is our stewardship responsibility because there's only one iconic red rock country on the planet, on the planet. And so I entered 30 years ago plus now into Sedona and was the person who, as the Michaels Group in those days, with a newly minted PhD and social policy, wanting to look at how to apply it in meaningful ways. By that, I mean making policy alive. And this is the work that we do every day and that you do as an interviewer. What are the policy issues that aren't dull, boring, but they're anchored in principles that are forever, that affect us every day? And you just
Yeah.
said it, it's back again. The crossings, it's back again. Grading of the cultural park, it's back again. Too many spaghetti connections to where? Nowhere.
Yeah.
At what price? And how does our policies as a community, a municipality, whether it's Sedona, Clarkdale, Camp Verde, doesn't matter, or a county or state. How do they line up with where we put our money and what our laws, our legislation looks like, and who we are as a community? And so when that disconnect causes enough what I call and what is called cognitive tension, we all find each other, don't we? And we
Mm-hmm.
say, what's right about this? Something's not right. And then there are people who, like you, seek policymakers out or advocates like me to say, what's going on? And so that's my life's work and that's your life's work. And I'm so glad that you're doing it. Don't you ever quit because I have no way to bring it to the residents if you don't help me do it. About 3 weeks ago, everything old became new again with the discussion of, well, this sounds a lot like the Verde Connect. And as you know, or just recently learned, I have an opponent, which was unexpected and
Just a spring.
very controversial in a primary, who's also a Dem. And of course, everyone knows that I'm a very fiscal conservative person, but I absolutely know that we can address social justice issues without throwing money away. I know that we can protect our iconic environment without throwing money away by making ridiculous routes that go to nowhere. In this case, we're saving much more money by not blasting Crescent Ranch and the beautiful Red Rock country and the Red Rock of Sedona, which will cost a fortune. We'll never be able to pay for it when we have so many other alternatives. And it is our job as elected officials, as policy advocates, as people who recognize value, that it's our responsibility, especially if we live in this beautiful state, to protect it. And
So on that note, what role would you play? You know what? We're getting feedback on your end. I can hear me in your.
Oh, shall I turn off my phone? Would that help?
Yeah, let's see if maybe we're connected that way. But yeah, on that note, when you say it's the policy makers' responsibility to care for these issues, what role would the supervisor play? Is that unincorporated land? Is it simply a county issue? I know Sedona can't do anything with it on their own. They need the county. But so what players are involved in this? Is it even an issue? Are these plans? I mean, obviously it's a long haul in implementing anything, but
well,
so it's
yeah,
non-issue.
It should be. It certainly should be. I mean, it was a slam dunk nearly 4 years ago, when it was but a couple of years that my opponent then, who was the seated supervisor, was moving fast forward to use 25 million to spend up to 100 million of our taxpayers' money to put in an infrastructure that would serve who? It would have been on our taxpayers' back for a road that could maybe go to a development. I don't think that's a fair deal.
The only reason, well, of course, the traffic mitigation, but it does
didn't turn
seem
out to be that, though.
Development-minded project.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so here we have, and understandably so, a desperate leadership looking for options, and it's long overdue. And the problem is that we have to weigh our values against what is the return on doing a quick solution, and what is the return on doing a more thoughtful approach. I did receive a letter today from leadership in Sedona, as a matter of fact, saying that this would be part of a longer plan with great deal of diligence. And I'm pleased to know that, because both Supervisor Gregory and I have been leading the march on having a regional transportation study that includes, which stunningly hasn't, the Verde Valley. We are now a county that needs to look from a 30,000-foot level. What does the entire county need? Stop using the physical divide of Mingus as a reason that we don't connect in these other really important policy, once again, issues. Yeah. What's the best way to get people Absolutely. The county. Absolutely. So that's a beginning step, and I'm pleased that SIMPO and the Verde Valley Transportation Organization and all of those that are involved in ingress and egress challenges, whether it's Sedona or Clarkdale, are beginning to come together and taking a holistic approach. That's exactly what it needs. However, when I read, not 3 weeks ago in the Red Rock News, and boy, my phone did not stop ringing, the head of the news article that day was that there was a unanimous vote by the Sedona City Council and leadership to move forward in recommending to the county to begin as soon as possible or practical bridges across Red Rock Crossing, Crescent Ranch, and Chavez Ranch, rather, and Crescent Moon areas. And I was stunned because, of course, and no one approached me, and I would be the supervisor in District 3.
The county first.
And absolutely, and additionally, I'm vice chair of the Board of Supervisors, and so I obviously work very well with my fellow board members, and I'm very delighted that that's happening, because in the minority party, that's a challenge. And one of the reasons that I hope all voters will look seriously at what we risk by changing. I was a known entity for many years working across the aisle, and that's the only way I've been able to navigate into this new position, particularly in the minority party. And I'm very proud to say that, you know, folks like Rancher Andy Grosetta and Representative Bliss and others down in the legislature and I work very well together. And that's what it's going to take going forward.
And with relationships with being a rural area Forest Service. So I want to kind of loop back for a minute back to the crossing possibilities, because Casey brought up a good question, which is bringing the Forest Service into this issue. She asked, my understanding is that Red Rock Crossing area was annexed by U.S. Forest Service after the last attempt to make a road down there. Curious if she could speak to that and if that makes it protected, or what could happen to take that away?
Well, always the Forest Service is and should be a leader in the conversation. And, you know, just like going back 30 plus years ago when the Forest Service was a willing partner in the 39 steps to change some of the checkerboard areas that eventually became the cultural park in trades, they would also be at the table in discussing that, as well as NEPA studies, which are required and take, in some cases, years. And good, we need to know whether there are antiquities there. We need to know what is the cultural historic value, and that requires some diligence. That said, it's hard for me to imagine why we would even be having this conversation, Hava. It would be the last conversation I would choose to have. Rather, I would be looking at what are the other obvious ones that are right in front of us. And should we?
So on that note, and I don't know that we're going to get a lot of closure on the crossing issue, because it's really just right now it's a bunch of noise and you know, look at these plans. So it is kind of a non-issue right now, but it is an issue, and exactly what you just touched upon is these kind of machinations of an interest that don't serve. I don't know. It's for another interview with someone else that can get a little more down the rabbit hole with these things. But what I'm finding interesting, and we'll seg into, and I hope if people have questions about the crossing, a little more specific, they can drop them in the chat when we finish, and we'll, you know, we can answer them. You can. But it's been very interesting as I've connected with you on this particular topic. My question is, why is it there is an attempt to get rid of you, replace you, when just going to your website and looking at your accomplishments, and you know you've got that ad that you show the picture. So I'm just curious. Maybe touch on
my dog. We'll share that in just a minute. Please. I'm not able to get up, but she's going to be quiet in just a second, I promise. She's greeting someone very happily. That's her happy bird. So that's the $64,000 question, isn't it? So we could postulate, we could speculate, and that's all we can do.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your achievements, because let's talk about why it makes no sense to start from scratch.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Or it makes a lot of sense to those who have agendas and special interests across, by the way, party lines. And that is that, we've been wildly successful. And when I say we, I really do mean we. There is no way I could have gotten OHV legislation passed, which we now have. I hope we'll have time to show that clip. First time historic uh, vote, 100% for the Appropriations Committee willingly passing 1176. They never agree on how they spend
That's
money.
awesome. Yeah, I
It
remember
is
being down in
awesome.
Phoenix with
Yes,
the legislature, and
yeah,
it didn't
absolutely.
look hopeful, but it's amazing how it's turned out.
Yeah, it did not. I mean, we drug that across the finish line, and thank God for so many people that helped.
Yeah.
I want to thank our Sheriff's Association, thank our sheriff in Yavapai County. There were so many people that stood up and said, Donna is advocating for more law enforcement to protect our public lands and our
Mhm.
cattle ranchers, our Arizona Cattle Ranching Association, Cattle Growers Association, said, our allotments, our grazing permit allotments are being run
Mm.
by OHVers, ATV riders who don't know the rules and aren't interested in knowing them. And so now we have mandatory education. And for the first time ever, we have a pool of funds that the state parks directs, which is wonderful. Now they have skin in the game for mitigating the damage that is done to property owners. That's whether it's you, Hava, or our cattle ranchers, or a private property owner out on 525. What's
Yeah.
been happening is not acceptable, and it was with throwing your heart over and hoping the horse would follow, jumping this very high hurdle to try to thread a needle of understanding that we are not saying we don't support industry. We're a business friendly state. I'm all for that. But we have to put our money where our mouth is on what is of value to us. What makes this state great is our 5 C's. And we all know that. We grew up on it, or we learned it after we moved here. And our open space, our safe, healthy open space, is involved in each one of those 5 C's. And so here's a new industry. Great. Now let's manage it in a way that's going to keep people safe, that's going to protect our land. And so that's just one. That's just one great accomplishment. We're at the table for the first time ever as rural communities. We have 3 other counties that joined with Yavapai. It was a pleasure to pen some of the first language for a proclamation asking our sitting governor to please ensure water security in our
Mhm.
44 rural areas that are left to fend for themselves. And that's never happened before. So I'm very proud of that. And it took all of us. We had people going down to the hearings and providing testimony. I've developed a new friend across the aisle, Senator Kerr, who's HB or LB, what was it,
11:20.
1221. I did not support, but
Right.
that didn't stop our conversation.
Mhm.
We were able to say, okay, how can we work through this? We're not there yet, but remember, we haven't been even talking since 1980. 1980,
Mhm.
when we got the first groundwater legislation passed in this state. And it is abysmal at trying to protect rural areas. And it was known then by our wonderful governor at the time, Bruce Babbitt, but he knew he'd only bite off one piece at a time. And now
Mhm.
we've arrived sophisticated enough, knowing enough, just enough hydrology to be able to have a conversation about where our water rights should be going. Should they be going to the Arab Emirates?
So what
And
happened
should
with that Saudi contract? Because you said it wasn't done. It just,
well,
can you tell me a little bit about that?
so are you talking about the United Arab Emirates and that deal? There was an injunction, but
Okay.
injunctions are short-lived. And so
Okay.
until we get legislation, they can come in and buy the water rights. They're growing alfalfa. They're feeding their thoroughbreds wonderful alfalfa. They have a right to buy the land here, and good for them. But let's talk about water and water rights. We have 1% of our population. That's ag. that feeds the rest of us, the 99%. I want to protect them first. I want to make sure that it's not big corporate ag, but rather our in-state ag who have to have the assurance that these 100-year-old ranches can continue. Just in Yavapai County alone, we're contributing $862 million to that bottom line for the state in cattle ranching. So whether you're a vegan or you get your protein directly from cattle, the thing is, we need to make sure that one of those 5 C's continues as the reason that we're such a great state and keep the small cattle rancher alive. And in the doing of that, keep our open spaces pristine. And to have that ability, we have to keep the OHVs in check and managed appropriately while making money. We have to also make sure that our water is used wisely and that we know why we need what we need in each of the 15 counties, which is what I'm advocating for. I don't want a broad brushstroke, and neither does anybody in the county coalition, the rural coalition that I'm a part of, and that spoke to the governor on multiple times, had the great good pleasure of sitting with her senior policy advisors, discussing what the vision is, and having the governor sit there. We even baked a pie for her out of Camp Verde. And it was just great because these low water crops that we've made low water crops are going to go away if we don't get the protection we need in the rural areas. Let us figure out what that means in each of the 15 counties because the needs are different. But let's have the assurance in the language that we are part of the language of the legislation. That's the goal.
Do you think it really comes down to those that want to maintain a rural lifestyle and those that say, oh, it's time to step into modern times? And I mean, to me, it just kind of feels like, if I can just really make the spectrum visible here, it just seems like we want to protect that or we don't.
And it's not a zero-sum game. But it's not a zero-sum game. Yeah. And that's the point. It's not either or. Hava, we can do both. We can have our cake and eat it too. We're already learning that. We know what our low water crops are. My goodness, now that we have the AVA, which I'm very proud to have been a part of, we have the American Viticulture Accreditation that was 7 years in limbo, purgatory, waiting to happen. And I just kept calling them. And calling them. And I know you said it was going to happen this week, but you know what? It didn't. And they've already earned it. And so now we have it in hand. And in fact, I expect that we'll soon have a license plate that says the heart of the wine country, Arizona's heart of the wine country. It's a beautiful thing that goes right to the price point. So that's an economic backbone that we need to support and to grow, and I'm proud to be part of that because once they're started, grapes are a low water crop. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And they give you open space. So that makes me very proud to be a part of. We're going to have to figure out how to best protect this industry when we have our prescribed burns. That's a whole nother conversation. But for the first time, the Forest Service came to the table when I called them and said, this last year, we can't breathe. It's health and safety.
The timing was off, yeah.
And the harvest period, 2 to 3 weeks, 3 weeks. And if you do these prescribed burns, then you'll ruin the crop because it creates a stain on the grape. And so I learned that, and they learned it because they'd never heard of it. So all of us are growing together, and I think that's what makes me most excited about the success we've had in the last 4 years. We're learning how to work increasingly better and better together in our different roles, whether it's as a legislator, whether it is the Forest Service, whether it's a stakeholder group that you thought you could never have a conversation with, and you learn that you can, whether it's water leadership in this state, and we're all sitting at the table discussing important aspects of it together.
Yeah, and you're also looking out for those that are experiencing rent increases. You're working on rent stabilization and affordable housing. Talk about
Yes.
what's happened recently.
Well, it's very exciting because our board, by consensus, agreed to go forward like they did with me. God love them, and a leap of faith with this new minority party board of supervisor member with the OHB matter. I have also presented it to the board for consideration to take to the statewide County Supervisor Association in October, where it will be presented, and hopefully it will be voted to make it a legislative priority. Either way, we're going to go forward, just like I did with OHB. But I'd love to have the statewide association of all 15 counties say, this needs to be a legislative priority. Hava, do you know that we're at risk of losing 400,000 residents in manufactured home communities because they're being priced out of the site fee? And by that, I mean that concrete slab that never gets improved and that the mobile home unit, the manufactured home, sits on for maybe more years than makes it available to be or reasonable to be moved. And so I'm going to present it. Hopefully, it's going to become a legislative priority for the statewide association. I've already had Representative Bliss up, Senator Bennett up, talking to this population, and we're not going to stop until we make sure, again, in this business-friendly state, that we have a way to align our values with making sure that people who pay taxes, worked all their lives, now have bought their last home to have their golden years, as they well deserve, safe. And I know we can do this as a state because, after all, we're attracting this population. So we have a responsibility to make sure we do it wisely. And I'm looking forward to working across the aisle to get this passed sooner rather than later, and to find just the right formula in our language that's going to make sure that your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, again, that chooses a manufactured home to spend the rest of their lives in together will be guaranteed the ability to do that and not be priced out because of the cost of that concrete that they have their home situated on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be another big challenge. It's entirely doable, especially
I
with
don't
that
know anybody
population.
more tireless than you, Donna Michaels. Yeah.
I love the work, so
Yeah,
it's not.
I know you do. It's obvious.
Yeah, it's not hard for me to do because I love it. It's
And one of the only complaints that I've heard about you
uh-oh.
from your opponent, or that the other side, I should say, because there is a primary next week. So I love the timing of this, that this kind of fell in our
Yes.
laps to talk about this, because the only thing I've heard, the only complaint that I've heard about you is that you're hard to get a meeting with, or you don't show up to meetings, which we know is baloney. I mean, you send me messages down in Phoenix, say, hey, can you pop in the office? I don't even live here. And you're reaching out to connect with me and share what you're up
Ask the people that I text at 4 in the morning because I begin my day at 4. I have a horse, Rebelicious, and I feed him at 4 and settle in to do my quiet time work like that, because I know once I hit the office, it's not going to be possible. My calendars are available for anybody to look at. I might reschedule of necessity, but there's not a person in the world I won't meet with. And I'm delighted to do that. And I was, in fact, out at an intersection this morning, waving to people who I don't even know, reminding them to vote. And that's coming up this Tuesday. So I hope everyone will take the responsibility, but the right, and exercise it this coming Tuesday. I don't understand that. I've addressed it head on with some folks who have made that claim, and there's certainly nowhere on the calendar that indicates it. And most people have.
There's nothing to complain about. That's the problem.
Oh.
You reschedule an appointment and suddenly that's the only thing that, can be, because there's nothing to complain. You're impeachable to me in terms of looking inside. So I really hope I don't have anything disparaging to say about any candidate, because I actually don't know them well at all. This has been very new to me. I found out about your opponent just a few days ago. So nothing bad to say. Don't even know the record. But I don't find that anybody watching this, anybody in Sedona in District 3 has any reason to replace you. There
Well,
is,
that's
it
it.
would be going backwards. It would be dismantling the progress you are making, have made, continue to make. So that's
It's
my,
it's a scary proposition because being the first female Democrat, to my knowledge, ever elected as a supervisor, and certainly the only one over here. But, there was Carol Springer, and there's certainly Mary Mallory, both
yeah.
Republicans, and I knew and respected Carol Springer greatly, and worked very well with Mary Mallory. But so party's irrelevant to me, quite
Yep.
frankly.
Well, you
But I will
switched
tell
parties, didn't you,
you,
to run? About 4 years ago, you switched to run. I mean, it's like Tom O'Halloran, one of my favorite congressmen. I think how many times did he switch? Just with the purpose of how can I best serve my constituents, right?
well,
That's it.
that's the thing.
About party.
That's the thing. I have a bust, as people who come into my office, and many do, of Abraham Lincoln on one side of the room, sitting on a column,
Mhm.
and my beloved book of Eleanor Roosevelt, open on a book display, a rack. And my comment is always, let's just sit down and talk about what we need to get done. I don't care which side you're on. Water doesn't know whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. Let's not tell it. And I feel that way in all of the issues. There's too much work to do. And yes, to speak directly to your point, why would you risk all of the success, historic, unprecedented, by sheer luck, by divine intervention, by the wonderful people I know along the way, that we've been able to accomplish, that has been first time ever, and risk it? It's like changing the winning jockey on the Kentucky Derby right before the last lap. And why in the world would you do that? Well, there are certain interests that are clearly at work, and we could talk about that, but I'll tell you it's unfortunate that it's in this particular time, because we have such a great opportunity in this country to show that no matter what, we can come together. And with the great challenges that we have with climate, with the great migration that's happening across our globe, with the climate change that's impacting what we grow, and the opportunity to put those challenges together in a meaningful program called Regenerative Practices, and the first time ever partnership now solidified with our land grant university, which I'm just thrilled about, to do the study, to connect workforce development rather than parking people overnight in a car, teach them a skill. It's almost biblical, but I'd love to have people be able to fish for themselves rather than me feed them the fish every day. Okay? And so, in the doing of that, earn the Fed's attention, or whatever funding body, to get housing for them on the land they are restoring, to return the carbon footprint while they learn an ag skill that
Mm.
best suits them. We know, for example, those folks, and it's why I have the Steps to Recovery program as a formal partner. It's why our county probationers are now formally involved. The incarcerated, the rehabilitated, uh, addiction client, those who are differently abled, don't want to sit in a chair behind a computer screen. They want to be connected to nature. That's where they thrive. The incidence of recidivism is almost zero by comparison. It's 16% now at our jail, which is good because we're having interventional programs thanks to the sheriff. And I love that. That's why I serve on that force. And I will tell you that we're missing an opportunity by not connecting those dots, and the courage and the excitement I'm seeing of stakeholders like Andy Grosetta and Bet River Ranch, and a new ranch out down a dusty, dirty road off of Merritt, by Spring Creek,
That's
where
where my
it's
son and his dad been for years. Yeah.
they're going to grow agave. They're a
Mm,
participant, and I am thrilled with
I
the other
know them.
small. Yes, you do. Small
Hmm.
ranchers. It's Rancho Alamosos. I'm destroying the
Yeah.
last name. Uh, uh, and Bent River, and again, the Grossetas and others that are saying,
Mhm.
uh, we can do something powerful on the social justice scale. And these are conservative Republicans. It's time to get people back to work. If ever there was a CCC opportunity, we can, with intention, just like they did after the war, bring people together and repair our roads, our soil. Remember the Dust Bowl in the 30s? We did that. We did that. And we can change it. And that's what regenerative practices is all about. So we can connect what are silos up until this moment. And I've put that proposal as a card carrying member now, a newly appointed one, to the National Association of County Officials, the Rural and Ag Steering Committee for our national policies on agriculture and rural matters. I'm so honored to have been appointed. And these are policies that we can set nationally that will go up the food chain, if you will. I hope to have the undersecretary and then the secretary of our Department of Ag out here to see this demonstration, just like we did with the United States Chief of the Forest Service from
Mm.
Washington, D.C., to personally look at our precious open space and why OHV legislation was important, and why an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the Forest Service and the cattle growers, was essential to make sure we're all looking at the same metrics together. And now the board, the county supervisors, are funding $100,000 to help the Forest Service have more range management on the ground. So we're
Good.
now participating in ways that we've never done before. And it's
I
good
love
news
your
for us.
promise. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a great opportunity not only for Yavapai County but for our state, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I hope people will, in listening to this conversation, realize how important the supervisor election
Yes,
is. It's
yes.
really, they're kind of the overseers of, where we live, the
Your
kind of
daily
answer.
life, your
Yeah.
daily
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And it's
So,
the greatest kept secret, whether it's open space, whether it's your comprehensive plan, which we just updated in
and
new,
won an award for it.
unprecedented. Yeah, absolutely. We now have a home of your own for free to those starters or people who maybe can't spend the 10,000 on plans, architectural renderings. We'll give them to you. You buy the
Hmm.
land, we'll give you these plans, and we're expanding that program. In fact, it's a national model, and our development services, Jeremy Dye at the lead, has led that charge, and to his credit, uh, they have claimed a national award, and we're telling folks this is the time to take advantage and have a different kind of partnership with your
Yeah.
county government. That's what we're doing. We're changing what county government is about. And my passion is to raise the bar of what a supervisor's job is about.
Well, I'm proud of your last 3 and something months as supervisor. It's so, I don't know, it just makes me feel I can go to bed at night knowing you and your wonderful team are really looking out for us. And, that question I asked about, do we build or we just stay small? And I just love your common sense meeting in the middle where we grow and we protect, preserve, and promote our rural lifestyle. And
Absolutely.
so I just love your balanced outlook and your tireless work. It's amazing everything you get accomplished. I can't even. So I'd love if maybe there's one other thing you haven't shared you'd like to share on what's happening, has been happening for you in this first tenure. Um, yeah, anything else you want to
Well,
share?
Uh, I think the protecting the water, of course, is just got to be the big one. It really does, because what do they say? Whiskey's for drinking, and waters for fighting. And so if you're in that issue, you're in all of them. I think what has been a real surprise and pleasure has been for me, despite what my opponent claims, which is I shouldn't be down at the legislature, I should only be in District 3. Everything I do at the legislature impacts District 3 and our county and frankly our state. My job is to go down there. Now you and I have a personal relationship enough for you to know that I can get lost in my own house. I'm one of those. I'm the kind of professorial, I don't know where I am. You just map me, whether it's how to do the computer, the cell phone, or get to wherever destination. But once there, am I a willing student? And the legislature has been a fascinating place for me to be introduced to. What a wonderful opportunity for us to have together as elected official and citizen. So I've had
There's
people
been some great,
reach out to me,
yeah,
come with me to the legislature.
yeah,
I've had folks do that,
yeah,
and it's an extraordinary experience. And
yeah,
I've learned a lot. I have a lot more to learn, but having the endorsements of past governors and senators and people who are willing to say, you know, she can't find a way out of a box, but she knows policy and she cares. And I'm forever passionate about the work that I do to protect our rural valley values, because to me, that's what this work is about. You know, folks are making a mass exodus, not just a migration, but in our country, a mass exodus from major metropolitan areas because the quality of life since the pandemic has really been under the microscope, right? And we long for a sense of connect. We long for a sense of community. We long for being able to see open space again. And they're coming. And so our job is to balance it. And there's no better model than rural America to bring all of us back to being grounded again in the ways that we personally need and want. And that's my passion and my joy. And so come back and see us up here soon, Hava.
I will. I'll see you soon. Thanks for all your work, and good luck
you.
on Tuesday.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much. From your lips to God's ears. Thank
that's
you.
right. All right. Keep on keeping on. Appreciate you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
everybody
much,
for
Hava. This was wonderful.
see you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.